Oi, what's the best game where you get to eat pie? What's the best game where you play a dead guy? Aye, you'll find out in VG247's podcast. Here, what's the best game where you swing from a rope? And what's the best game where you batter the Pope? Assassin's Creed 2. Like I said, you will find out in this here podcast. Hello and welcome to VG247's Best Games Ever podcast. It's been weeks since I've said that. Not really sure what I'm doing anymore. But this is our New Year episode, or the end of 2023 episode, and it's been a real banner year for video game releases. There's been a Game of the Year candidate once a week. It's been quite insane on the releases front. We're probably never going to see a year like it ever again, because from now on it's going to be a real shit slalom into the void. But as we've seen on the jobs front, but what I'm asking my colleagues today is, what's the best game this year that you've already forgotten about? Because does anyone, there was a new Zelda this year, right? That was this year. And in any other year, we'd have been talking about that for 6, 7, 8 months. It fucking left the news cycle almost as soon as it came out. One of the best games ever made, frankly. And it was like just lost in the noise. If Zelda can get lost in the noise, then who else has got a hope in hell? That's why nobody has played Chants of Senna. I think in any other year that would have been a real standout indie game, but it was just another decent game in a year of decent games, and everyone went, who gives a shit? Frankly, you need to be more than decent to be remembered in 2023. Joining me today, I've got Alex Donaldson, Rebecca Jones, and Connor Macker, who you've all won like multiple times now, right? So
yes,
so if Connor kicks off about losing later,
Connor
which
won multiple times. That feels.
I've won like 3 times, 4 times.
We did. Me and Tom did one of our weird audit things that we do when nothing else is planned that week. You know, when we've got something planned, but Chris Pratt tells you can't do it because he's ill, because he's a fucking coward. So we had to do one of those, and we went through the scoreboard, and I can tell you that Alex is still way in the lead with 20 wins.
Wow.
And Connor, you're not last. You're like on 7, I think.
That's wild. That's
7 or 8.
Is that because we just hired more people?
Largely, yeah. But, you know, a win's a win, right?
A win is a win, yeah.
Yeah, you should tell people that you are in the top 5 on the scoreboard in a company of like 9 people. But,
yeah,
you know.
It's good.
It's good. It's good. It's better than you were doing last year because less time had passed. Yeah. Right, okay.
Doesn't this need to be done on percentages, though? Rather than sheer number of wins.
It really should be like.
Because I've only been here since August.
I don't like that because I think Bill Cliff would probably be top then.
That'll knock me straight back down to last, I think.
Yeah, I want to see it happen.
Sharif is always saying this. He's like, we should really figure out what everyone's win ratio is, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm British, so I prefer to stick to a really like terrible system that doesn't actually tell you anything about what people have done. So, right, what's the best game that we've already forgotten came out this year? Accepting, of course, that by talking about it, you patiently do remember it. We're not going to go down that road because that just gets us into a metaphysical conundrum that we can't solve in 28 minutes. Alex, what's yours?
It's probably quite a predictable one for me. I thought about this a fair amount. And really, there was only one choice for me. So I'll cut straight to the chase and not have a long story like I usually do. And that is Octopath Traveler 2. Which is, I was really pissed off at the Game Awards. And, we're on the jury, right? We're one of the jury websites. So, we're part of this. So, it is, with all due respect to everyone. But I could not believe that this game wasn't nominated for Best Role-Playing Game. And Final Fantasy 16, which is barely a role-playing game by the skin of its teeth, was. It's just baffling to me. And it wasn't nominated for Best Music either. And the soundtrack to this game is just incredible. And I actually think it's a bit shocking that this game sort of has ended up being forgotten, because it's just the original Octopath Traveler made quite a splash when it came out. That sort of HD 2D art style was new. No one had ever seen anything like it before, and people were just like, "Oh my god, this is beautiful! This is the spiritual successor to the Super Nintendo style of RPG that Square used to make." And it's it's a really gorgeous looking thing, and it had really lovely, really cleverly designed combat and a really interesting approach to the story, where obviously the clue is in the name. It's Octopath, 8 paths, and that means there's 8 different characters that you recruit, but you can start as any of the 8 and recruit the 8 in any order, and each character has their own individual story that you complete, and then they all sort of dovetail together at the end in one big RPG save the world thing. But Octopath Traveler, the first one, was pretty flawed as well. And the second one basically just kept all those wonderful foundations and addressed pretty much every complaint. So people complained, for instance, that because of the non-linear nature of the story, you didn't get that classic Japanese RPG camaraderie between the party members because they never really knew who you'd have at any given time. Whereas in the second game, they've sort of built it up so certain pairings of characters not only have a lot of interactions, but also actually have separate story beats that they go off and do together that tie their individual plots together, and then everybody still comes together as all 8 at the end. They addressed issues with the length, they addressed visual issues, they addressed battle issues, and it's just absolutely wonderful. And I genuinely believe, for me, it is my second or third favorite game of the year. Sort of like
really, wow.
Maybe to be fair, maybe fourth, because I guess it's Street Fighter. My top 4 is definitely Street Fighter, Baldur's Gate, this, and my mind has just got, and Zelda, of course. That's definitely.
What about RoboCop, Alex?
I like it. It's in my top 10. I like RoboCop.
What I love about that. What I love about that is like your top 10 like favorite games of the year. In any other year, he's like, has there been 10 good games out?
Well, that's I think there has, but you end up going into like it's extremely esoteric stuff, and yeah, but it's in my top 4 games of the year in a really good year, and on a more normal year, if this game had come out last year, or probably if it had come out next year, it probably would have been my game of the year. And it's just fantastic. I can't recommend it enough, and it so carries if you're a person who has any affinity for sort of that golden era of Japanese RPGs from the Super Nintendo age, the first Octopath was good at this, but the second one, just the title screen of the game and the main theme of the game is so beautiful and somehow so evocative of the sense of adventure that those games gave me as a child, that it legitimately, just the press start screen made me a bit emotional. The first time I played it, it was really a really surreal moment for me, but it just channeled everything, and it really bums me out. I don't quite know why. My understanding is it's done okay sales wise, but again, it hasn't been as explosive as the first one. I think Square made a crucial mistake with this HD 2D thing, which is obviously they did Octopath 1, Octopath 2. They also did Triangle Strategy, which was sort of like what if Octopath but Final Fantasy Tactics. And that one was fine. It wasn't amazing. It had one really cool story idea. But they also did Live Alive, which is a remake of a Super Nintendo game that is one of the best RPGs of that era, and was sort of a holy grail for a lot of nerds like me, because it was one of those JRPGs that never came out in the 90s in the West. And those guys went on after that game straight away to make Chrono Trigger the best Japanese RPG of all time. And so Live Alive has this legendary status, and I think by having that come out in between Octopath 1 and Octopath 2, what they sort of did is, I do think Octopath 2 is actually a better game than Live Alive, but Live Alive has great historical significance and stuff. But I think they sort of they broke the seal. They opened Pandora's box in the sense that now what people want, now they've had one, is they don't necessarily want original HD 2D games. They want Final Fantasy VI to be remade. They want remakes because they want Chrono Trigger, because that seal has now been broken. So I think Square was a bit unwise in breaking that seal, because they could have made more great original games. And I really hope Octopath continues. But yeah, Octopath 2, just a tremendously special game and just completely forgotten. Like I say, the fact that that was not nominated for Best Role-Playing Game, the fact that that was not nominated for Best Music is, at the Game Awards, is absolutely shocking to me. And it shows that it has just sort of flown under the radar and been forgotten, which is why I felt it was perfect for this category. So yeah.
Well, it's not a bad pick because I genuinely had no idea it was out. So, in fact, like I'm pretty sure, like ambiently, I did. I'm sure I've seen it mentioned and stuff, but I wasn't really conscious of it being a thing. And I really liked the first game, but as you say, it had. My problem with the first game was that I just didn't feel that invested. I did all the 8 kind of character origins and stuff, and no matter because you basically it's like a dial on an old phone, right? You pick one to start with, and then you just kind of go around and kind of mop them all up like Pokemon, all the different origins.
Yeah, it's much more cleverly designed this time. They
that's good.
They play with the layout of the world because obviously people don't realize, but the way that the character skills work is they're always in pairs. So there's like 2 physical, 2 white mage sort of characters, 2 black mage sort of characters. So they all sort of pair off. And this time they actually split it, so it's 2 continents. So one continent has one group of 4, and one continent has the other group of 4. And you can crisscross if you want, but it sort of encourages you to do 1-4 together. It tries to tease you into doing that anyway. Yeah, it's much better structured, sort of addresses all that stuff. And I think they legitimately are called crossover stories where the tales of 2 characters sort of intersect are really well done.
Nice. Well, you've really sold it to me, but I feel like I need to play the first one and finish it first.
No, see, I genuinely, genuinely, I feel quite strongly about this. To anyone listening as well, like Octopath 1's lovely, but it's one of those games. There's no story reason to play the first one, and the second one, it's one of those sequels that legitimately just supplants and replaces the original game.
Yeah.
So you may as well just play the second one. And then if you really love the second one and you want more, go back and play the first.
Yeah.
But don't play the first and then go to play the second, because I think back to back, they'd probably be quite hard work.
Yeah. That's, as a very time poor man, that's what I want to hear. All right. Okay. Right. So Octopath Traveler 2. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people listen to this and go, they did another one of those. Rebecca, what have you got? Because you teased this.
I did. And now I worry that I've gone way too silly with my pick.
It's all right.
That's usually me doing that.
That was such a heartfelt and meaningful case to remember a game that really has just I knew Octopath 2 was out, but I hadn't even, that was legitimately, I thought that was tail end of last year. So that's a really good choice.
Yeah.
Whereas what I did was went through my list, because I keep a list of all the games I play in a year.
Yeah.
And just went through my list until I found one I was like, oh yeah, that. And I picked that because I thought that was the fairest way of meeting the criteria, which has ended with this odd situation where my pick is The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, it is good though.
It is good.
Fantastic.
It is a good game, genuinely. And it came out on March 31st, so it was obviously an April Fool's bit from Sega. But it's genuinely a good game. It probably didn't, to be fair, it didn't crack my top 10 of the year, but I had a lot of fun playing it. And to add a bit of further context, so it's a visual novel, very much done in the Ace Attorney style, where just Sonic characters are in this go to a murder mystery birthday party, and Sonic gets cast as the victim, but then actually he doesn't die. Is it a spoiler to say he doesn't die? Probably not. Does it matter if you spoil The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog? Probably not.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
If
you didn't play it that week, you're probably not going to be like, oh, that was in my backlog.
It is good though. It is genuinely worth playing if you like the sort of the murder mystery visual novels of that ilk. And there weren't many out. Actually, that's a lie. There were loads out this year, just not any of the big franchises this year. But if you wanted one in a big franchise, it was genuinely a very, very fun game. And but that's the thing, because of the way it was sort of framed, it's released as this April Fool's joke. It's free on Steam or whatever. It is easy to just kind of play it for a couple of hours, get to the end, and then completely forget it ever existed. But I went back because I saw, intermittently people have sort of found it throughout the year, and there'll be a little boost as a YouTuber finds it and people start playing it again. I had a look yesterday, and it has got just shy of 20,000 overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. It was, I think, at one point the highest reviewed Sonic game on Steam, which is kind of delightful, actually. I mean, I feel like maybe Steam isn't the platform to compare it all on, but I did find that really quite funny that people genuinely did really love this game.
Yeah.
People love a good game that's free.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's really hard to argue with it as just a genuinely, though, as someone who plays a lot of that type of visual novel, it was just like, yeah, this actually does, they haven't just made fun of the genre. They've actually like researched into it and done it really well on the basis of other games that do this. So yeah, I was genuinely really impressed, and then immediately went and forgot it until called upon to remember something for this episode. And I also think it's just really funny. Like, it's an inherently funny thing to discuss.
Yeah.
A visual novel spin-off of Sonic the Hedgehog. That's not a dating sim, crucially.
It's not a dating sim. Okay.
Crucially.
I also really love that Sega did this, because it's like it is a Western team of people, and like the producer on this game, Michelle, I don't know if that's how her name's pronounced, it's spelled a little bit differently to the traditional spelling of that name, but I followed her on Twitter for years because she's a game dev, but she's just very funny. And so when it was revealed that she was behind this, I was like, well, of course. And she's also she's also always played up the fact that she's a huge Sonic fan. But the fact that Sonic Team in Japan and Sega Japan allowed this to happen, I just think is quite glorious. Like, you wouldn't get a Square or a Capcom allowing this to, maybe Capcom, but you definitely wouldn't get a Square allowing this to happen, to allow a bunch of people in Square US to make, the Murder of Cloud or whatever, or Chocobo Killer or whatever. It wouldn't be allowed. So I love that it exists as well, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just, there's, as you say, like, so many good games this year. 2023, I almost kind of hope we don't have another game like this, because in the industry it's been frantic trying to cover this many games in this year that have come out. But it was a really pleasant little diversion. And also, I guess, like, for me as well, because the first game I ever remember playing as like a 3-year-old was Sonic the Hedgehog. And like, fast forward 30 years, I'm really into murder mystery visual novels, and they make a murder mystery visual novel about Sonic the Hedgehog, and it like feels in a way like something's come full circle for me, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's like they pulled it out your brain. I
love it. Yeah. Love it.
I love the fact that, like, what I love about it is just that Sega has, by making it, given you the opportunity to maintain your like visual novel streak on this podcast, but also do a Sonic game.
I know, it's too good. It's too good, right? But yeah, genuinely, Alex's pick Alex is not mine.
I do love a like a franchise like that, though, having a weird game like this. Like, when I was a kid, even though it was sort of shit, I loved Mario is Missing. Which was like the educational visual novelty game where you played as Luigi to try and rescue Mario had been abducted and all the rest. And it was like it was a visual novel where you click around Monkey Island style, and you collect stuff, but it was all about the real world. So you'd learn facts about how tall the Statue of Liberty was and shit like that.
Yeah, that's weird. Sonic has got previous on doing sort of weird kind of like genre flips, though, isn't it? Because like Sonic, there was like Flicky's Island, which was like a weird isometric.
Well, that's Sonic 3D. It was them
thing.
sort of like experimenting, right? But I think that one I sort of forgive, but they have sort of had all sorts of, I don't know, is it that different to Mario? But they've had, not quite skateboarding, but hoverboarding games.
There's a Sonic fucking BioWare RPG.
That's the one that jumps out at me, and that game is actually like low key quite good, and it sort of became a meme when it came out because it has. There's a story here. This is the Alex tangent for the episode. I believe the story is basically the rights for Sonic music are quite complicated. Like, some of the Sonic 1 and 2 music was composed by a guy called Nakamura, who was in quite a popular Japanese band called Dreams Come True, and in a quite unusual thing for a video game made in 1991, he actually owned the music. So that's why, for instance, you never hear the Sonic theme anymore. You don't hear that anymore because that belongs to Nakamura. And anytime they want to use Green Hill or Chemical Plant, these sort of iconic tracks, they've got to go and pay Nakamura money. That's also why you get things like in Smash Brothers on the Sonic stage. Even though the Sonic stage is Green Hill, they have the original Green Hill music from the Mega Drive, and the remix is like a Sonic Free song, because that Sega actually owned that, and I presume it was cheaper to just buy, we're going to put the original in, than it was to go to him and say we want to pay someone to remix it. But so the music rights, and then there's all the Michael Jackson Sonic Free stuff, which is also which is why they had to replace a bunch of the music in Sonic Free in the most recent version of that game. But supposedly, I think what I have heard happened was whoever was doing the music, BioWare was not really aware of this and had a bunch of lovely arrangements of a lot of songs that Sega didn't actually own, and then they all literally had to be replaced in like a week. And so there's a load of music in the game that's shockingly shit. I will send you after this, Jim, a clip of one. You can just drop it in here as an example.
Yeah,
but it's some of the music's fine, a lot of it, but it sort of became a lightning rod where there were these tracks that were like ported from Sonic 3 and other Sonic games that were so badly done and so buggy that it became a lightning rod of the whole game's terrible. But that BioWare RPG, as Baby's first RPG, it's actually all right, and I actually think it's a better kid's first RPG than Super Mario RPG.
Oh,
That's not probably not a very popular opinion, but
Fighting words.
they should make another one of those.
They should, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, they should. All right, okay. So
Here we go.
It's The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog is the title, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Once again, I thought that was last year. I didn't think that was this year. I was aware of that, but it was like, oh, it's just like dissolved into the meme sponge that exists in everyone's brain, along with like fucking like the meme with the guy looking at a woman while he's with his girlfriend, and or all that sort of shit where somebody pulls that out and you're like, fucking hell, how old is this? But no, it's really recent, which is shocking. And as Donaldson just muttered under his breath, here we go, Connor.
I don't know what you like.
I just don't know how many pervert games came out this year.
Not a lot, and obviously, like, when they come out, like there's obviously so many of them that, like, who cares really? This year's been brutal, as we've sort of hinted and outright said, for a lot of games, and there are lots of really good picks. So I also went through like a list of like games that I remember like taking note of and then just kind of forgetting.
They all have hentai in the title.
No, none of them did. I remember a lot of the last sort of remaining VR people were so excited about like Horizon, like that Horizon Dawn of the Mountain game.
Shit, was that this year?
Yeah.
Oh fuck. Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
I think that came out and just flopped. Like, or it didn't. I don't want to say flop, but like that kind of fell out of fashion real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of really good RPGs kind of got squeezed between the sides. Like Alex has pointed towards, like Baldur's Gate 3 came out. Shadow Gambit also like was out in a similar period. And that's a really solid game.
That's a really good game. Yeah.
And that underperformed kind of so poorly, but the studio was getting shut down, which sucks. That's kind of the.
I don't think. That's not how they put it.
No, it's not.
They just said that, like,
this is our last one.
We're done. Like, we're sick of making games. It's too complicated.
I mean, that's true, but you can't, like, it would probably help if, like, this massive, amazing RPG didn't release within the same, they probably would have done them a favor.
It is slightly bad timing, and you sort of think it did come between the two biggest games of the year.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
But for me, like, in terms of a game that's kind of so, I don't hear people talk about much at all apart from Sharif, really, is Diablo 4.
Hang on. Right, point of order. You both hate Diablo 4.
I mean, Diablo 4, right, is a pretty good sort of, for what it is, it's a pretty good game.
This is the best games ever podcast, not the pretty good games podcast.
Like, people love Diablo 4. I personally don't care for it, but I can separate my own tastes to objective quality, right? You know, I like some pretty bad stuff. That's obvious. Anyone who's listening to this podcast knows that, right? But I can sit down and be like, okay, is it just your taste being weird?
Like, but
or
bad
is this
as
game
in
actually
bad as in low
right?
quality, or bad as in immoral?
Both.
Why not both? Yeah,
Both. But like Diablo 4 is just like it's this sort of we're gonna bring back the spirit of, you know, Diablo, those early Diablo games, like the horror aspect of it. Looks gorgeous, great story, amazing voice act. Like, it's a beautiful package, right? And everyone was so excited for it. It broke records according to Blizzard. Like, it broke sort of records for like sales.
Yeah.
Amazing launch. And then just like issue after gripe, after that sort of controversy hit it, people weren't too excited about going through it over and over again, and it kind of just bled out. Like the first season came out of like content, and that had a lot of issues with it, and obviously people were looking at like all sorts of like DLC prices, and it just kind of faded out. And I remember the reason why I picked this one is because I was talking to some friends, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to jump into the new Path of Exile update. There's a new season going with that." I'm like, and I was sitting there, I was like, if I wanted to play a game like that, what would I play? If I wanted to have a good time, would I play Diablo 4, this amazing, like incredibly hyped, lovingly made sort of game? Or would I just jump into Path of Exile again? I think I would genuinely just like, it's just gone from my head in this conversation. Path of Exile is totally just eating its cake, which is wild considering how many people were so excited about it and like how much of a big pop it had at launch. I mean, we covered it so much on the website because it's Diablo 4. It's a big new Diablo game. That seemingly addressed a lot of the issues people had with Diablo 3, and it wasn't Diablo Immortal. So I mean, it just kind of fizzled out, and I think that's shocking because you'd think a game with that big a name and that big a presence in the sort of zeitgeist of people's minds would still be a big contester, like for people like now. At the Game Awards, it got best multiplayer. I'm not convinced it was put there just other than people were like, oh, we should probably nominate Diablo for something.
Yeah.
Was it? Did it win?
No.
Oh, good. Good.
That's what I think people just threw it on the list because, it's Diablo. I think to give it also got nominated for best accessibility, and it did have some good features for that. Yeah. But like this year especially, it just totally got crushed.
Yeah.
And for like a Titan sort of IP as that, like that's kind of shocking to me. Still, that I'm sitting here like I don't have any sort of care for Diablo 4 at all.
If I was Blizzard, I would just say that it won best multiplayer. Like, who's gonna check? Like,
no one.
It's so easy to miss that.
I thought it had, and I was about to get annoyed.
Yeah.
The fact that we're on the panel and none of us can say for sure what one.
Right.
But it's the way that all the awards were just like delivered via fucking machine gun fire from Jeff Keighley between adverts.
Yeah, like no one even.
It's like, and now the best blah blah blah, and the best blah, and it's like it's supposed to be a celebration of the industry and the people the developers that make it happen. It's just like none of them got a single shout out. It's just like and best thing goes to these guys.
And the multiplayer in that game isn't even that good. Like it's meant to be like a MMO thing, but like you interact with people out in the world, you just see some barbarian rolling by. It's like, okay, cool. Or you sort of throw yourself at a world boss for like 2 minutes and it dies. Like, and there was a period where like people weren't even doing that stuff. Like I think we did a news story about people not even being able to kill world bosses because not people were doing it. Best multiplayer.
Best multiplayer. Nobody can get people just standing about.
I think this is where I go on the attack a bit. So brace. I think the Murdoch of Sonic the Hedgehog is kind of meant to be flash in the pan. It's an April Fool's game.
Yeah, I would say that is
it's designed to be thrown out. Assessment. Yeah, it's designed to be thrown out for quick and like a laugh. It's good. It's great. But then you kind of move on with your life, which is valuable, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, but it's not meant to be. Oh, I remember Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. That was so amazing. And in a year like this, I think while Octopath Traveler 2 is so good, I actually agree that game is amazing, and it is really sad it got kind of like forgotten. I think
it's better than Diablo 4.
But it's been such a massive RPG year.
I notice you can't disagree.
Let's roll past that part.
Yeah.
Better for who? No, Alex.
What,
For people with hearts and souls and minds.
Go
Better
down
for who?
Go
Fucking hell.
go down to your local game and be like, have you heard of Diablo 4? And they'd be like, yeah, I've heard of Diablo 4. Wow, I forgot about that actually. Wow.
Kind of each 2023 game doesn't exist anymore.
And they go, huh?
Yeah, they'll all have heard of fucking Jeffrey Epstein as well. That doesn't mean anything. Like, right. I just want to point out that when you started this, about Diablo 4, you said, "Well, it's weird me bringing this up and not Sharif because Sharif talks about it all the time." Sharif talks about Diablo 4 all the time because he likes moaning. Like, it's not because he's like enthusiastic about it. He's like, "Man, this fucking game again."
I remember when I was playing Diablo 4, when I was reviewing it. Yeah. I was talking to Sharif about it. And he actually had more positive thoughts about it at the time than I did. Yeah. So I think he has some love for Diablo 4. I think if you love something, you gripe about it. In the same way that
that is true. Actually.
I love moaning about League of Legends, but I play it every week.
Yeah.
You know?
That is true. I
don't know.
But in this year,
types of gripe, isn't there? There's different types.
In this year, it's been such a contested RPG year that, while sad, I do kind of understand how Octopath Traveler 2 got swallowed up. That doesn't take away from how sad it is.
I think it was swallowed up at launch, and it came out in February. It came out before all the crazy shit dropped.
Yeah. It's so hard to remember anything that came out in January, February.
It was already gone.
Diablo 4 is the king of its sort of subgenre, really. It's the at least surviving, sort of like Torchlight, like whatever. But Diablo released it's meant to be a big thing, and it was, and then it just fizzled, and that's unbelievable to me.
The thing is, I actually think it's the worst game in this lineup of 3.
Well, I think that a bunch of dudes 20 years old with baseball caps on will disagree with you. They think Diablo is sick, dude. And, we can't...
I need to point out here that wearing a baseball cap isn't any kind of signifier of youth.
But it is of coolness and of being smart. And...
I've got... Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it Deep Space Nine one?
Judge? Okay, well, that's... Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's put Connor out of his misery. Right. I've got to pick something now.
Okay.
Which means we've got to play the fucking sound.
Can't believe that's the last time I get to hear that this year.
Right?
Fuck, I didn't think that through. I'm still eating the lubricant. Oh dear.
What am I going to do for the rest of 2023 with myself without hearing that song for another?
I'll send you the MP3 on WhatsApp if you want.
Yeah, that's...
Please do, yeah.
I'll listen to it on Christmas morning.
Right, okay. I've just swallowed the world's driest fucking gingerbread. Okay. Alex wins.
Deserved.
I'll tell you why Alex wins.
Can you at least say why?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why. Because you admitted earlier on that Diablo 4 is not as good a game as Octopath Traveler 2.
I didn't say that. I said that I personally, have tastes that don't necessarily match up to objective fact. I'm man enough to admit that.
That's just... No, you said... We'll roll the fucking tape back. You said, you agreed that Octopath Traveler 2 was a better game than Diablo 4.
In my opinion,
and earlier than that, Rebecca said, just give it to Alex.
That's the
making my job really easy this week.
My words. You said that like...
I didn't twist your words. I just repeated what you said.
You made up the sheriff quote as well. You're not even listening.
I didn't. I actually didn't make up the sheriff quote.
You did. Roll the tapes back. You're putting words in my mouth. You're taking sentences I did say and then twisting the meaning somewhat so you can just wrap up the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I am doing that to some extent because we're all quite busy this week. Some of us have got trains to catch, Connor.
I have a train to catch.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why are you trying to eke it out?
Because I deserve to be put down for good reason.
You do deserve to be put down.
Whoa. Ow.
I didn't mean in the deaf way. I just meant in the insult way.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's fair.
Merry Christmas.
You don't mean in
Christmas,
the
everyone.
what's happened to the goldfish sort of way.
Flush down the bog.
This is really horrible.
Connor.
This is really horrible.
I love how Connor's like.
I love you, really.
Connor's so good at like if there was an Oscar for pretending to take things to heart.
I'm genuinely hurt.
See,
I expected. Sorry, Connor. Good try, but Octopath wins. Not you deserve.
Why
to
would
be
you
put
expect
down.
that? When has anyone ever said that? If you expected that, that's kind of on you. Okay, let's finish up there. It's the last podcast of 2023, obviously, but we will be back in January with more episodes of this fucking show.
Jesus.
Please leave a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice, like and subscribe on YouTube, and by all means leave a comment, which we won't read. Bye.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Oh yeah, that as well.